Well, today on Making Reagan, I'm so pleased to have a special guest, our art director.
Supervising art
director, supervising art director on Reagan, Dawn Ferry. Dawn, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. I mean, I love coming to the Oval Office remote. So
You're one of our first in-person guests. So we have the plastic divider up. We're going to be totally safe. We're not going to transmit COVID to one another, not that we have it. But Dawn, you and I were talking beforehand that you and I are one of the few that didn't get this disease on the set. Knock on wood.
knock on the resolute desk.
What do you think it was between us gals? What do you think it was that kept us from getting it?
For me, I'm going to say I always eat really healthy.
I do that. Well, I
lots
do
of
that
green veggies and healthy eating, vitamins, tons of water.
Vitamins, yes.
And
sleep.
Sleep. I'm an exercise nut, so I think if you help your body, you set it up to be able to help you.
How much did you sleep? But during the shoot, you weren't sleeping a lot.
During the shoot, I was not sleeping immensely, no, because I was with first unit shooting, and then I was also with second unit shooting, and I was also with our crew prepping. So I had some long days. However, I was averaging 22 to 24,000 steps a day at the Masonic Temple.
Wow.
So back to the keeping healthy.
Because you lost weight on set.
Oh yeah, I lost about 12 pounds. Yeah.
I gained 12. Like that doesn't make any sense. I don't know how you did that, but God bless you.
Walked a lot, avoid craft service. It's pretty easy.
I didn't do that. It's all these tables of food. Well, you're also on a lot of movies, the production designer.
Correct. I do usually have production design, but Reagan was very special, and I loved director Sean McNamara. He's one I usually production design for. Mm-hmm. And when they called me and said that they really wanted somebody to kind of supervise the set decoration portion of it and graphics, I said I would be honored. Great. Reagan's first president I ever voted for, and of course I was really thrilled to get to do this film. So.
Well, just for myself, I was so amazed at the level of detail, the intricate detail that you were able to replicate for us. I know it's just normal to you, but to people like me, it's like, wow, she found that. Like, how do you go about finding the kind of stuff you found for our set?
Well, it's a combination of things. So one, it's helpful to have been doing. I mean, I started off as a set decorator before I was a production designer. I was a set deck for about 10 years. But it's also, I mean, honestly, some of it is, I say my superpower is I'm lucky. Like, some of it is truly luck. But it is also knowing where to look. But like in the luck department, for example, our shopper went to a thrift store and walked in and found a stack of authentic Reagan inaugural plates, those green plates that go in the Oval Office.
Just randomly happened to find them.
We randomly found a stack of authentic plates, which are right over there in your office, as a matter of fact. So I don't freaking, it's not quite, you can't quite see it in yours, but I mean, that was unbelievably lucky. I mean, we were he had on his list to look for some green spode plates, so we figured we could just add the eagle, which goes in the middle of it, and lo and behold, I can't resist. I'm gonna go grab one.
Yeah, go for it.
Lo and behold.
And there it is.
Here it is, like the plate.
Thrift shops.
Candlelight dinner.
Wow.
Reagan's inauguration. So, I mean, that was definitely like lucky being my superpower, because there was no, you can't hope for something like that.
That was here in LA?
That was here in LA.
Wow.
We had a really fantastic shopper buyer here, Kathleen White. So thank God, you got to get really good people too. And that's a big part of being able to fulfill on these things. And we were sort of double teaming it. We knew there were things we were not going to be able to find in Oklahoma. And happily, here in LA, we have pretty much all of those, things. And the things that we don't have, we have places that can make them. So we got started as early as possible, rounding things up. And it was really funny. It's always funny on these projects. You never know what's going to be. Things you think, oh, I've seen that a million times. And then you go to look for them, and it's like, where is it? And then things that you, like those plates that I would never in a million years, I mean, I just assumed we were going to have them reproduced. So I thought maybe I could find a base of a green plate, but I figured we might even be reproducing the entire plate. And lo and behold, you find one. So
like overall, how would you describe the term production designer? What does it involve? What do you have to do? What is
So
it
the production design, I like to say, if you think of your average book as what, like 900, 1,000 pages, your average script is 90, 100 pages. So those other missing 800 pages, that's the art department. All those things that people, that are filled in normally with descriptives, we've got to do all of that. And, and let's face it, there's nothing more boring than exposition in a film. If I hear somebody start talking about the, blah, 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 this, whatever, it's like, okay, I have to know that this kid was a baseball whiz when he was a kid. He's probably going to have to throw a ball at something and, like, knock someone out for it. I just know I'm getting set up for something.
Right.
Now, as art department, if you just have a shelf behind him that's got a team, picture from Little League, and you've got a glove, and you've got a ball, like maybe signed, and then a big trophy if he was supposed to have been really good, and a small trophy if he was supposed to not have been good, and clearly a kid-sized glove, you've just set it all in, like one little shelf. So we really fill in and help with the, flushing out the characters. Because there's just only so much time, that we have, and we've got to fill in a lot of information for people.
Now, how did you study for this? How did you prepare for this when you were in college? And is this what you thought you'd be doing?
It's funny, actually. I loved theater from the time I was a kid, and I'd always done it. But my parents made me promise I would have a fallback, like a real job. And I was majoring in something completely different, but I acted. And I was in a play. The main room was my character's room, and the designer really hated doing all of what we're talking about now, set decoration, the small stuff. Anything that's not nailed down on the set is set decoration. Hated doing it. And he and his wife and I were very good friends, so on the weekend I would go out with him and we went shopping. I was like, no, you can't give me that. I would definitely have this lamp, not that lamp. And so anyway, I ended up dressing the set. A marvelous director named Paul Bartel saw the play. He did a wonderful film called Eating Raoul. A lot of people might be too young to remember, but if you haven't seen it, it's a hilarious dark comedy. I highly recommend watching Eating Raoul. Anyway, he saw the play and was turning another play into a film over the summer, and called Devin, the designer, and asked if I would like to ask Devin to design it. Devin called me and said, hey, how would you like to come and be a set decorator for me this summer? And I said, what's a set decorator? It's like, well, it's like what you did, but you read the whole script, you go and you shop for all the characters.
After college, right?
This is during college.
During college, okay.
And I was like, wait, so you're telling me you want to pay me to shop all summer? And he said, yeah. And I was like, I'm in. So I did that one, and then the whole next year, we were doing music videos. Back in the day when MTV made them, we were doing music videos on the weekends, and while I was in college. And by the time I came out, I had a resume as a set tech, and I just loved it. I mean, I'm a learning junkie anyway, and what I love about it, back to why I do it well, is all the research. So every time you do a film, I get to learn about all these different characters. I get to learn about different jobs. If they do a certain job, I need to know for their office, or what does that track into if we see their home. All of the things that I can do to help flush out these characters and give little hints to things people are going to want to know about them.
So how did you research for Reagan?
Well,
and
Reagan was amazingly fun for me, because, like I said, he was the first one I voted for, and I knew some about him anyway. But I learned, my favorite thing that I learned that I didn't know about Reagan, there were two things. One, he has a book called The Notes. So we had the privilege of getting to talk to Dana Rohrbacher, who's one of our characters, who's also was available as to speak to. And talking to Dana, he was saying how, yes, he was a speechwriter, but Reagan was an amazing wordsmith. And he said, he used to keep this whole index file of cards, and he put in a lot of his own quotes were from him. He embellished his own speeches quite a bit. And he said, my job was easy, thanks to Reagan. So I researched, and I found out that all those cards were what had been made into a book called The Notes. So we got the notes and actually had one of our dressers transcribe every single note into a note that we had as a card box on his desk.
Wow.
But it's as you look through those and you start to feel like the man, like what was important to him, what caught his eye. It's really interesting. And then the other thing that I didn't know that I loved finding out was this real love affair that he had with Nancy. I mean, I knew they were close, but I had no idea the impact she really had on him. And there's the Love Letters, which is another book, and he would just write her these amazing letters, and as I read them, I was a fan of his anyway, but I really fell in love with Ronald Reagan reading these. I mean, he loved Nancy, and he loved America. He had two great loves. He loved Nancy, and he loved America. And it's so it was really sweet to find, it's not just a history. There's this love story, and it really comes out. And it was part of the fun of doing all the sets was, getting Nancy in there too. She really had quite the panache. I mean, you look at the red living room at the White House, which we got to recreate.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, it was really, really fun. I mean, finding the fabrics, and it was particularly interesting was doing it in COVID. So places that normally were available were not. And I mean, we for the fabrics for that, and also the fabrics for the couches, it was like, oh my gosh, Kathleen and I were scouring places, and finally found a wonderful place. But I think we ended up having to have some of them shipped from France, and then you're trying to ship in. I mean, it was really there were a lot of things that had never occurred to me were going to be make it so much more complicated than it normally is, which it's already sort of complicated because you're looking at vintage fabrics, and we were really committed to coming as absolutely close as we could to all of these,
Yeah.
So and happily it was well documented. We were also very grateful to the Reagan Library. The docents there were absolutely wonderful. They sent us all these great references. There were paintings we had trouble finding, which again surprised us. It turned out they were a little like rogue, the paintings, which you know about.
Yes, well,
and
talk
so
to
we
the
couldn't
audience
find
about
those
that.
to rent.
So just briefly, so you went to get the paintings, the Oval Office recreated, and you went to.
We had to get some of them recreated, and the docent at the Reagan Library referred me to another docent at a New York museum that had just done their own exhibit. She said, well, we did this a long time ago, but they've just recreated. They might have, fresher context for you to get some of these pieces made. It's like,
right.
Fantastic, that'd be great, because they had much more time. We're also on a bit of a tight schedule because of COVID. We're trying to get our start, as soon as quick as possible. So it was a pretty short time period to do a historic piece we span 100 years. So with all the research to be done over 100 years, we're being told from present day 2021,
right.
But we go span back to his childhood, of 1920. So it's that's a big gap. Research-wise, you rarely have to research 100 years at a time.
Normal movies are like 5 years or 10 years or something.
Or a year, or
right.
whatever. But yeah, it's a pretty big. And wonderful. I mean, it's the kind of thing, of course, you love as a designer, as a decorator, as an artist, like getting to see the change over time. But it was quite a concise time period to pull that off. So anyway, I was happy for any jump start I could get. But I called them only to find that they had changed some of the art. They said, and it's funny because I guess they've changed their story since. But my understanding was that. They felt like some of the pieces were not as politically correct, and then they backpedaled and said, "Oh no, well we had the same artist but a different piece. So rather than having we felt like it was enough to just represent that artist." But
Andrew Jackson. There was I think a priest preaching to the Native Americans.
To the troops.
And there were some Native Americans too.
There's a few natives in it, but it's actually preaching to the troops, and the. It's right. Actually, we should put them because they're all in here. But
so it was the New York Historical Art Society.
It was the New York Historical Museum. I don't remember.
But the bottom line is they didn't want to do certain paintings because by today's standards, they were racist.
They decided they were not politically.
But my question
correct.
to you at the time was, what about George Washington? How come he's not? He's a slave owner. How come we can do George Washington?
Well, I don't know that they would have done him either. I'm not sure. But I mean, it was really prop houses just didn't have it to rent, so we had to have it made, and so. There was one painting that was just out on a permanent set. We had the same thing with a lot of the set pieces. There were some that just surprisingly, like I didn't think we'd have any problem finding the end tables or a butler's coffee table.
Right.
Couldn't find them.
Wow.
Found the end tables, but they were on a permanent set. So again, like just in such a tight time frame, we just ended up like scouring auctions and. We scoured all the antique stores available in Oklahoma, but we scoured auction sites and.
You personally go out to all these places?
Well, myself or our shopper buyer Kathleen. We had a shopper buyer also in Oklahoma. and an assistant set decorator. So we had several people shopping.
I think some of our listeners are going, I want to get paid to shop.
It's
That
you
sounds
know
like a lot of
you
fun.
could do a lot worse than to get paid to shop. It's pretty awesome. Except for when you're looking for something and you can't find it.
Right.
So and it's not as awesome.
Our sort of pre-COVID budget expanded because of COVID, so we ended up somewhere $24, $25 million. Is that where is that in comparison to most of the movies you worked on budget-wise? Is this higher or lower, or just
It's about.
in the middle?
I've done a lot in this range. I've done some lower. I love what I do. So I've even about once a year I try to do something that just I find some script that has some really is meaningful to me. So I generally do an indie a year. You know, I started off doing them. When I was set decking, I did a lovely film called Smoke Signals. I'm Native American. And we actually, I'm very proud to say, we're the only film, I believe, to date that won the Audience and Directors Award at the Sundance Film Festival. And I love indies. You know, sometimes you can just get a lot more in when you don't have a lot of people who have a say in what you're allowed to put in. You know? So
That
it's
sounds familiar.
so it's there's some there's a lot to be said for indies, and it's just fun. So.
Yeah. What's your favorite movie been so far besides Reagan to work on in the past?
You know, people ask me that, and it's hard because they're fun in so many different ways. You know, they've all been fun in the research and things I've gotten to do.
How many of Sean's films did you do previously?
Oh gosh, how many films have we
Soul
done
Surfer,
together?
Miracle Season.
I didn't do Soul Surfer. I was actually widowed right when that happened, so I wasn't available for that one. But we did Beyond the Break, a TV series together. We did Even Stevens, which is what I got in the union on.
Shia.
Very fun, Shia.
Yeah.
Very fun show.
Yeah.
A little film called Punks with Jessica Alba, a young Jessica Alba. Sean has a very good eye for young talent.
Right.
I'm very excited to see Tommy. As a matter of fact, speaking of indies, Tommy, who's going to be playing young Reagan.
Tommy Reagan, right? Yep.
Tommy Reagan, who's playing young Ronald Reagan. Different spelling.
Yeah.
He was in a film we did called Mighty Oak.
Mighty Oak, right.
And he's actually a 10-year-old guitar prodigy. He wrote about half the music that's in the film.
Wow.
I remember writing out we had Bob Dylan's grandson plays a part in it, and he was doing some of the songs, and I was writing out cue cards for him because he had like 5 songs he had to memorize, which is, it's a lot. And I'm writing out cue cards, looking at these lyrics, which are unbelievable. I'm like, dude, his mom was next to me. I was like, how old was he when he wrote this song?
Amazing.
She's like, 8. It's like, wow. Why can't I find a man like who's 48 who's got this kind of depth that understands relationships? It's really amazing.
Well, there's just so much to think about, but the level of detail, you must be a very detail-oriented person, obviously, right? You have to have a certain personality to be in this job.
I'm a little type A, and yes, I do believe the devil's in the details. And, the great thing about a film like this that has more of a budget is that you really have having the time and the budget to drill down into those details. Because the more we drill, it's just like I was saying, like we're filling out all those pages that aren't there. More time and money I have, the more I can fill in all those things that aren't there. And
you also have to really be on your toes, because we're in the middle of the scene, and somebody say we need such, and you hadn't even thought of that, and then you have to have it on standby somewhere, or someone knows where to get it.
Generally, that doesn't happen. Like, we did have that happen a few times.
That happened on our set,
where actors got inspired, and
we won't name any names.
Who shall remain nameless.
Right.
Got inspired to have something that wasn't there, even though it was historically accurately created.
Right. Or the positioning of things around the set, things like that, which is, in a good way. The actors are very into it.
It's not unusual. It was just a little odd in that we're historic and we were replicating things quite accurately.
Right.
But that's great. But we had others, for example, when John came in, he had some very...
John Voight.
John Voight. Love him. I've done several films with John, too, and a series with him. And just such a consummate professional. It's so talented. Talk about drilling down into characters. And John had done quite a bit of work on his character. And we, unfortunately, apparently he had been trying... we'd been trying to talk to him, of course, because I know him. And I know how he has these wonderful instincts. And apparently he'd been trying... Somehow we had missed each other. So anyway, when he came in... He had some really fantastic thoughts on his character, but it was a different way than we'd gone, and so we had a huge. It just so happened that's right when we were shut down, so we were able to do a bit of a reboot. But it was wonderful because his character he just brought so much to it, you know, and I love getting to collaborate with an artist like John is a dream for, you know, a designer or a decorator to have someone like that. We're sitting in there, and actually Kathleen was in town, and we're sitting with him, and he's talking about all these things about the character, and it just inspires you of other things to have. He had 3 paintings he specifically wanted.
Chekhov, the three
Turgenev,
Russians, right?
And Tolstoy.
Okay, so he says, I want these 3 paintings. What do you do?
I get those 3 paintings. Are you kidding? John Voight wants 3 paintings. John Voight
How
is
did you
getting
go? Did you
3
have them
paintings.
painted?
Oh yeah, we had them painted. We had, much the same as we had the missing pieces for the Oval Office
How long
done.
did that take you, though?
Well, happily you can get one done. I mean, you can get anything done faster if you're willing to pay for it. You know, but we had them rushed. We found frames. We thankfully the frames didn't have to match anything. It was just something he had wanted. He felt. I loved his whole take on the character.
Was brilliant.
That
it was brilliant.
Yeah, and that it was really. He said it was just. That's what's so interesting too, and that's why it's always wonderful to get to talk to actors, especially someone like him. You know, when you can in advance, because they have these ideas, and we're a collaborative art, and that's the other thing I love about this. You know, if you want to be a soloist, be a painter, go off by yourself. But I love the collaboration.
Right.
And so this whole inspiration, he wanted those 3 in particular because he felt very much that his character had regret.
Right.
And that he had at some point had really had an epiphany. And what's really great is that I think he really had fallen in love with Reagan and his ideals, and
I mean, Victor the character.
Victor the character had really fallen in love with. He was supposed to be his Russian profiler, and instead he actually became a believer. You know, and so he really wanted these particular pieces to personify this sort of other depth that he'd gone to. And so you better believe. I mean, one, it was just absolutely a perfect inspiration. You know, so and it helped us kind of kick. We knew we wanted him to have a lot of books. We knew we wanted him to be. He was someone who drilled down.
Filing cabinets full of old clippings, newspapers, all that.
Everything, yeah, that we could about him, and also we didn't get to do his previous office, but we also had the thought of having him be into entomology, because you know it's all about drilling down, you know, and people who are into that kind of detail, you know, then they're into that kind of detail. It's, you know, how you do anything is how you do everything. One of my mentors used to say. It's not exactly true, but it definitely points to a truth. And so that he was a very drilled down person, and so it helped us actually kick the books that we got. We'd already, interestingly, we already had gotten a set of Tolstoy books, but we got some other books too that were, you know, that were more philosophical, and so it was really helped round out the character. And I can tell you, when you see John, I mean, even his final speech, there was just not a dry eye in the house when he was.
I still get it when I watch. So when people see the film, eventually they'll see that newspaper, for instance. How did you get that newspaper? Did you have to recreate that, or did you find that somewhere? Or what did you do?
There's a few newspapers. The one in Victor's, we had a lot of things created. There's a wonderful, we had a marvelous graphic artist, Melissa Woods, who's also in the Guild. And it's a combination, again, like just a combination of combing, research. When we were shopping, when we did our first pass, we bought as many authentic, you know, Reagan, you know, everything we could possibly find. Prop Master too. You know, we were all like pooled to find everything we could possibly find that was real, so we could have as many real things to top stuff off with as possible. And there's things that where you have to sort of also fill in. Like there's a scene where they're on Air Force One, and Nancy comes in with a paper, and we found an article that worked really well in the New York Times that was related to what she's talking about. You know, that wasn't specifically in the script, but we, you know, so it's a combination of things that are referenced specifically and things that you feel will tell the story the best. Back to we're trying to fill in. So we found a headline that was a real headline that was like, that really tells the moment we're trying to tell here in this part of the story. So.
Right. Well, you did such a phenomenal job, and I think, how does somebody prepare for a career like this? I know you didn't prepare for it technically because you went in a different direction, but how would you, if you had to do over again?
No. I think I did prepare for it because I've always been a learning junkie, and I'm just fascinated with people. One of my degrees is in counseling, you know, and I think it's certainly a great, at least worth taking a course in if you're interested in this, because we are helping, as much as the actors are these characters, we are as well. You know, and what's wonderful, about, I mean, I had an acting background, I had acting classes, and there's, the subtext underneath, and it's all really very similar, but the joy of it as a decorator is I can be characters that I could never be cast to play, so I get this whole breadth of being able to be a lot of people, not just people, like places. We also have to learn about cultures, we also learn about palettes. I mean, you not only authentically recreating places, but you can kick a mood, you put certain colors in a palette, you can show that things are tied together. It's very subtle, but there's a lot of subliminal stuff in what we do too. You can show that people are really connected, or they might connect. You can make somebody feel happier or sadder with colors. If you know this, like the reason that all the counters in Burger King and McDonald's originally were orange is it makes people more hungry. Colors have a lot. Colors have a lot to do with. There's a big psychological impact. So it's not only all of the things we've talked about. There's a whole other world of. We could go on for another conversation about sometime in the art direction portion of it versus the set deck portion, where. And our art direction portion, by the way, was amazing. Chris Rose and his company at Abstractico, who built all the sets, phenomenal.
That same attention to detail that you have.
Unbelievable. Well. I mean, our Oval Office is just perfect.
We're going to get that on display somewhere.
Our situation room, perfect. I mean, just the craftsmanship. He came, I guess, from historic restorations too, and you can tell because the every one of them are just absolutely true craftsmen, and it's so rare to find.
What about making a movie during COVID? What was that like compared to all the other films you've worked on in normal circumstances?
It just added another layer of difficulty. It's like I said, there was, for example, back to the fabrics, when we're trying to get fabrics done, a lot of these places, it was whatever they had in stock because the mills were shut. They weren't making things. If you could find it, we had to get, so we ended up having to get some things shipped from France, and it was lucky if you could find some little family operation. You were lucky because they would still be running because they were all family. But even if they were trying to get this done, like they were probably doing one run a day of a new fabric. If they, so it just added this whole extra layer of complication to just made it more difficult on the resource end to get things really.
I don't think you would recommend filming during COVID, right?
I would be so happy to be filming not during COVID when we get through all of this. I can't wait to be free at last.
Well, just wanted to wrap up our conversation here today. I just want to get your thoughts overall on the film. Dennis, what were your impressions overall? You worked on many other films. How many films is this for you now? What number is Reagan?
Over 40.
Over
I'm not
40.
Sure
so
how many.
what jumps out at you? What are your memories and what sticks with you? And
most of those are series, but a lot of projects. Dennis is absolutely amazing. We, again, back to that, we're very committed to recreating everything pristinely. We watched every single speech that's in Reagan. We watched it like hawks, to make sure we had the real thing, to make sure we had the exact amount of glasses,
right.
The exact, as close to, if not the exact glass, exact, things on the podium, like everything, the mics. So I had watched those speeches quite a bit in the interest of getting all of the notes to make sure that everything was accurate. So I had heard them a lot and seen Reagan delivering them a lot. Each of those speeches I'd seen, I don't know, over 20 times, I'm sure. So when I watched Dennis, I have to tell you, it was, I would say eerie, it was uncanny. I had moments, he really nailed the voice. There are moments where I was like, wow, this is what it would have been like to actually be with Reagan. To actually have seen Reagan give the speech, have been standing in the room to hear him. It was, I had quite a few of those moments. It's like, I guess it's not deja vu if you never saw it before. I only saw it on film, but
sure.
But he absolutely, he's really captured him, and it's. I'm very happy that another generation will get to see him, because, like I said, he loved Nancy, and he loved America, and I think it's great, for people to be reminded of. Of a president that really loved America, a Republican president that really loved America.
Well,
I'll just say it out loud.
You helped Dennis and us capture that, so thanks for all your hard work, and can't wait for the audience to see all the great things you brought to this film. So thanks, Dawn, for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And on the film, too, it was a joy.